Well, it's 1 o'clock. I think we're going to get started here. So thank you everyone for joining our webinar today. My name is Victoria. I'm your host for today. And you're tuning into the first iteration of our dotCMS Talks webinar series. So today we're going to be discussing the dotCMS roadmap, but definitely stay tuned for more great content coming your way because we'll use these short sessions really as a platform to talk about major dotCMS functionality, best practices, market trends, and more. So but today we're going to be talking about roadmap and we're super excited to get started today. But before we do, just a couple of housekeeping items and intros here. Flip to the next slide. So the recording will be sent out to everyone after the presentation. We are open for any questions that you may have today. So please ask any questions that you have for our team in the Q&A box, not the chat. And we'll either get to them in context of the presentation or at the end. And if we don't have time to get to all the questions, we'll definitely follow up with you via email. So without further ado though, our presenters today are Will, he's our CTO and co-founder. Freddy is our front-end developer lead, and then Damen is our product manager. So between these guys, they're a big part of our product team and they'll be able to answer any and all questions that you have as we go today.
Great.
So our agenda really today is to take you through what's new so far in 2023. So all the new features that we have released or about to release up to this quarter. So things like experiments, Zapier, block editor, some user experience improvements, and then we'll touch on the roadmap for the last half of this year and give an opportunity for any questions that you have. So that being said, let's get started.
Great.
Thanks, Vic.
Vic, let's see, did I skip a slide? I
There
did
we
skip
go.
a slide. I apologize. Hey, everyone. This is Will Ezell here talking about the dotCMS roadmap. And we'll just jump right in. One big component that's coming in dotCMS, and it's something that we've been promising for about 2 years now, but it's finally getting here, is the ability to do A/B testing and experiments inside dotCMS. And what this feature is a way to go and from a page in edit mode to be able to browse to the page, say, I want to run an experiment on this page, and click and make a variant or 2 variants of that page and be able to test and optimize that page based on things like bounce rates or things like you can set a goal. So people on this page convert to and end up on another page or a thank you page or dig deeper into the site. And based on what that goal says, to be able to, the system will automatically begin delivering that variant of the page. And this kind of was a big lift in dotCMS. I mean, I think in any system, because we're integrating with third-party data stores and things like that. But I think from a product perspective, all of the experiment data and experimentation is it's not happening server side, so it's happening client side. And so what that means though is it can be used in headless implementations as well. And I think that A/B testing is something that we've heard from customers that they want to be able to, they want to run tests not only, actually it was interesting when I was talking to some customers about this, customers are interested not only to find better variations of a page, but also to find out whether or not people are actually using different parts of the page as they expect. So it was sort of they wanted to kind of run a negative experiment to see like, okay, we have this whole huge footer. Is anyone ever going down there and clicking on it? But experiments is really just the foundation for a lot more data analytics in dotCMS and the first blush of us using it. And we're just really excited about it. One thing that's going to happen is it's going to roll out slowly. And our plan is to release it in a limited beta. And I guess if you're interested in demoing it or learning more about it, or enabling it in your installation, reach out to your customer success manager and we can walk through what that process looks like. It's not really going to be a switch that gets flipped and gets delivered because it does rely on, external implementation and external infrastructure. But we're really excited about it. I mean, like I said, I think we've been talking about this now for 2 years, and it's rolling out here within the next 2 months.
Another feature we've got for you is our new page browser and bookmark capabilities. So you're familiar with dotCMS, we have our site browser, but a lot of times things can kind of get lost in the shuffle. So you have a page that you really want to track on a regular basis, or you want to keep tabs on it. This is a way to be able to kind of track that page and find that page, favorite it as one of your bookmarks in the site, and then have essentially a one-click access to it whenever you want to go back to it. Especially for things like the experiments or whatever else, as we're getting more data into the system, we want to make sure that we can share, give people access to the information they want, give people access to the data they want a lot faster. So you find a page you like, you can bookmark it, and then it shows up just as, essentially a one-click or two-click item, easy access. Another cool stuff that we got in this is we've really got like the ability to search based on your slugs. So, so you can start typing if you want to find a page, and it'll just kind of filter that list down however you want to get to it. We're just trying to make it a little bit faster to get from broadly editing content to getting to the specific piece of content that you're trying to edit.
Yeah, and I really feel like, Damon, this is going to change the way people interact, especially page editors interact with dotCMS. I mean, and it's way faster than going to the browser and like clicking and double clicking and then having to go double click a page and get to edit mode. And it unifies the whole idea of the slug based content or URL map based content and traditional page content, and puts that all into a single screen, makes it, easily searchable by URL. And I really think it's going to, it's going to really change and get people to edit mode way faster.
We also are providing thumbnails for those pages, so it's going to be easy to locate by just looking at it, and they're going to work multi-site, which means that you can be in one side. If you want to edit a page from another side, you can just click it there and go boom right away. You don't have to even change your site anymore. Right,
and it's interesting. This feature was initially ideated as to be like a channel manager, to be able to have, let's say you're a multi-tenant or multi-host installation, you want to have quick bookmarks to go to any of those different hosts, or a language. Maybe you want to automatically go to this host in a secondary or tertiary language, or maybe you want to even view and click and edit a page and have that open up in a device, a specific device preview. So it was intended to be really a channel manager. And we started layering on different features, and it finally became really the page browser and bookmarks. But it's really, like I said, I really do think it's gonna change the way that content editors interact with dotCMS, especially page-based editors.
To be sure, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Next up, one thing that, and I've talked about this in previous roadmaps, is Zapier integration, excuse me. Zapier integration, right? And Zapier, for those of you who don't know it, it's like a tool an integration of integrations. So it allows you to connect, almost any internet-based system with almost any other internet-based system, from a Google Docs to Google Sheets to Salesforce to HubSpot to Slack to AI tooling, ChatGPT. You can connect that, and now you can connect dotCMS to those, right? And what you do is you create these things called zaps. So you can create a zap that says, I want to start a new Google Doc, fill out the Google Doc, and have that automatically sent to dotCMS as a piece of content. Or I want to use an AI engine to build. And there was actually, it was really interesting. There was a Twitter post by someone who was, seeing whether or not using AI tools could help improve SEO, and he generated he generated, I think, 15,000 different SEO specific pages and blog posts, and was using this tool called Byword AI. And we took a look at it, and Byword AI, you can integrate it with Zapier. And so you can give Byword AI a whole spreadsheet of like blog titles and have it generate those blogs, and those get dumped directly into dotCMS. It was really interesting. So Zaps, you can move content from outside dotCMS into dotCMS. You can also move content from dotCMS into third-party systems. So, you can have a form that someone fills out in dotCMS, and when they post it, it'll automatically post that to a Salesforce contact or something like that. So this is a plugin. It's available now, and we can, if anyone's interested in enabling this or beginning to play around with this, we can drop it onto your site or share the plugin with you to allow you to test it. And our Zapier integration is public. So when you go to Zapier and you're creating a new Zap, you can just select the dotCMS, you point it at your installation, give it your credentials, and it'll automatically do the authentication there for you as well. So it's a nice new sort of meta feature for integration. So,
and there's
Freddy,
a lot more to come with Zapier, right? Like we've kind of set up a few things here and there, but there's essentially infinite number of other systems we can connect together. We'll describe Zapier very well, but I just describe it as duct tape. You want to stick some things together, Zapier is your duct tape to do it in. Just start sticking things together and it works.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
That's good. And I think one thing that we can also provide is Zapier. We can create kind of starter templates. They're kind of recipes of different integrations, and that's something that I think we're planning on taking a look at to provide some of those recipes, just to get ideas of how it can be integrated.
Yep.
Now there's a question here. Is there let's see. Someone raised their hand. I guess it went down.
Oh, no,
Aaron,
I'll
I
chime
think
in.
it's just
This is awesome. That's a good question. Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate that one.
it is awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, well, block editor, we did a lot of improvements. We heard our customers that we deployed block editor to them, and we definitely, block editor, you can put like regular block text, like headings and lists and paragraphs and stuff like that. But then you can definitely put some other blocks, like for example, other contentlets, which allows you to relate contentlets together with other contentlets like seamlessly. You can set rules. You can even set what contentlets do you want to relate with which block editor, which is great. We improve a lot in the multimedia section of this. Images or videos are first citizen of this now, and you can have them from external URLs or the user file system or even dotCMS content itself. And you can actually drag and drop just videos and images into your block editor, and they're going to be uploaded to dotCMS and be stored as content that you can reuse everywhere. Of course, in this same area, you can reorganize your block through drag and drop and make sure that everything looks okay. Every block is its own entity of content, and you can add marks to them. It could be like a link or make it bold or italic or all those things. And one thing that would definitely put a lot of effort is the fact that we're going to allow developers to extend this block editor, creating their own blocks. We call it remote blocks, and it's going to use the same API that we use to build our blocks, to build the contentlet blocks, etc. We create a GitHub repo as a starter that anybody can clone and start building their own blocks on top of it. Meaning, like if you have, I don't know, Salesforce and you want to bring something from Salesforce as a blog, you can do that. Or for Shopify, I mean, the sky is the limit. If anything has a API, you can turn it into a blog. So that's great. We're definitely going to keep building on top of the block editor. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say one thing that I think we're talking about now. Just everyone's running around with GPT-4 and ChatGPT and AI and the growth of that. One thing that I think we're going to build into it, just as a proof of concept with the custom blocks, is a AI generated content to be able to to have right in the block editor to specify a prompt, have it fill out the block and even generate images for you right into block editor. So it's just something that we're actually kicking off currently, and to prove out the custom blocks, the ability to completely customize and add new controls into the block editor.
Yeah, at the end of the day, to be a little bit more technical, your block is going to be just a JavaScript file that you're going to put inside dotCMS or anywhere else, and you're going to reference that to the field, and that's it. It's going to pop up in the suggestion box, and you're going to pick it up from there.
Yeah. We got a couple questions. Real quick, we have a question about the WYSIWYG editor being deprecated. We don't plan on deprecating the WYSIWYG editor. It's not going any, I mean, there's way too much, there's millions of content in the world that it's based on this WYSIWYG editor. It's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. We don't plan on adding new functionality to it though. I mean, I think we'll support it if there's issues with it, but I don't think we're going to be building tooling into the old WYSIWYG. Instead, we'd be building that tooling into the block editor. Right. And I think one of the challenges I think this question was raising was like, we have a lot of editors that actually switch from the WYSIWYG to text view and drop JavaScript or, you know, CSS or something like that in there. Maybe that's something we can address in the block editor. I don't know, maybe it's a custom block that allows you to drop, you know, that would allow you to drop that sort of code, raw code into it. But yeah, I mean, that's something we can definitely explore.
We did build a functionality to migrate WYSIWYG fields to block editor fields, but that doesn't mean that we're going to deprecate the WYSIWYG. It's just like if anybody wants to move that content into that type of fields, yeah, you can go ahead.
You pick whichever option works best for you and run with that. If you're happy with the old editor, you can stay. If you want to take advantage of the new features, you can hop over.
Real quick, there was a question about Zapier about moving content into dotCMS or show live streams from other applications. I'm not sure about the live streams from other applications, but you can use Zapier to move content into dotCMS, and you can use Zapier to move content out of dotCMS. Right, so that's what it gives you. It gives you that you know, that two-way integration. So if you have a third-party system that's generating content, or is your single source of truth for a certain, you know, let's call it a product listings or, you know, building information or, you know, any of that stuff, you can use Zapier to deliver that into dotCMS, and just like I said, you can push content out from dotCMS to those other different systems. Cool. Let's see. There's another question about being able to move widgets from the bottom of the page to the top. I think that should be doable currently. We'd have to see what's going on there, but yeah, no, you should be able to drag. When you drag, when you're in page editing and you drag a widget or a piece of content up or down, it should be, the whole screen should be scrolling. So I think that's if that's not happening, then there's something there we need to address.
And we can talk at the end, we can talk about some of the improvements we have in mind for the template builder too, that may help with that.
Cool.
Improvements for user experience. So, you know, we sent that survey out a while back. We got feedback from a bunch of folks. Really appreciate everybody who was able to complete that. And, you know, front and center, we're trying to improve some of the aspects of the user experience that we're just trying to make them a little bit more consistent feeling. And it timed in really well because we had another initiative where we're coming up with a kind of like a new design guide for us to roll out across the application. And so it kind of emphasized moving that up a little bit. And you'll see in the latest version of dotCMS, we've taken some steps towards this. We've got some new accessible colors. We've got a couple different form field changes. You know, just trying to make things a little bit more consistent. You'll see consistent font sizes and consistent error messages, a lot more consistency anyway. Not perfect. We'll keep working on this, but you know, it's going to definitely feel like a fresh coat of paint for a lot of folks. But it's, you know, we're trying to do things a little bit deeper, making changes that kind of bring everything just to be a little bit more uniform in how you use dotCMS, predictable. Yeah, it's been a big overhaul, big project, and Freddie has done a lot of work on this.
Yeah, and we came together as a company and talked cross departmental about what we need to be working on, and even from our customers. I mean, we have a ton of feedback, and I think it was generally agreed that the UI and the UX experience needs to be primary in what we're looking at doing, and it's not just the UI, but it's also how you interact with the system too. And I think that what we're going to be taking on future forward is initiatives that just make living in dotCMS easier, and as Damon said, more consistent. Great. So another component we're working on is a command line interface, a .CLI, and the output of this and the outcome of this is going to be like a CI/CD action or GitHub action, if you will, or a Docker image that you can fire up. It's basically going to sync a repository, let's call it a GitHub repository of all your files and assets with your .CMS instance, right? And the idea here is to keep your code and configuration in like a GitHub repo, and things like your widget code and your templates and your containers and your content type definitions and your languages. All of that can live in the GitHub repo. You can make changes to it. You can roll out, new containers, new widgets, what have you, by committing into that GitHub repo, and it'll automatically get synced with what's in .cms. So the command line interface is going to be underlying that, but it's a, like it says, it's a command line interface to interact, to be able to go to, .CLI, point it at a site, authenticate on the site, and say like pull, and be able to pull back all the assets and files, or push and be able to push the assets and files. And it's going to do delta, so it's not just going to be like a mass push. It's actually going to run through the file tree, find what's changed, and either pull those or push those as well. So that's what's going to be underlying. And with the final outcome, like I was saying, is kind of enabling CI/CD. And we know we have a lot of customers who've written this on their own. They have Jenkins servers, or they're using GitHub Actions to do this same type of work. This is just going to be a .cms supported easy path to getting that work done.
Cool. So that's what we have for coming up in the next couple months for Q2. Anybody have any questions on those things before we kind of do the teaser for the roadmap for the rest of the year? Feel free to chime in with any questions you got. But yeah, I'm going to kind of rush through these things because there's a lot here. But again, going back to the customer surveys, we know that, and talking to a lot of customers, we know that SEO is huge for a lot of folks, anybody in marketing. And so we're building out a couple more tools to support a few more kind of standard SEO fields, and some more of the structured page content fields out of the box. Building in some more tools to help you check your own pages and kind of make sure everything's trending in the right direction. Broken link checker, I think, was on the radar, and some tools to integrate with Lighthouse, which is kind of Google's page scanner. Yeah, anyway, some more.
One thing real quick, Damon, one thing about the SEO improvements, what we're hoping to be able to pull off with these SEO improvements too, is that kind of a core capability, which is the idea of a field set in .cms, which would be like a content type which you can embed in other content types as a field. So you can, what that would give us is the ability to create, richer controls that could be shared across different content types. So in this case of the SEO, there's a set of fields, of standard SEO type fields, that every page and every slug content should have. We could, with a field set, the idea is you could build that field set and then embed that in all of your different other content types, so you don't have to build that everywhere.
Yeah, and it works really, really well for the structured page content from Google, if you have a recipe, if you have a product or an article, right? Having those, the right metadata fields and being able to reuse those without having to reconfigure them for every page template. Yeah, it's going to be really cool.
Yep.
Yeah, we also have the Open Graph section of this. We're going to support Open Graph for different social networks. They can recognize that page or how it is and the thumbnails and everything.
Oh yeah, then some of the preview tools for the social shares are going to be really cool too. All built right into dotCMS. So a bunch of SEO improvements, social improvements, sharing, whatever you want to call all that stuff. We have a bunch of CI/CD improvements coming.
And I talked a little bit about those, I think, with the GitHub, with the command line tool, but that's where that's going. The command line tool is going to be underlying the patterns, you know, and it's going to be, we get asked all the time, how do we do CI/CD in dotCMS? And we're like, well, you got to set up an automated either Jenkins or GitHub, and you got to, use WebDAV and sync the files. This is all going to be, the dotCMS way to do CI/CD here. So yeah, it should make that whole journey way easier.
And we've got a bunch of initiatives under this, right, to try and, dotCMS will never be a true software as a service, right? But we can kind of approach that in the way it feels. It can feel a lot more like a software, like a service.
Yep.
So in that same vein, we've got a bunch of auto scaling improvements coming. So like if we need to, or if you need to drop in another server under your load balancer, or we need to reset some servers. Some small stuff that's going to come right away is we've implemented a Redis server so that if you have to change, you shouldn't have to, well, the problem we're trying to solve is you shouldn't have to log out and log back in again if you add some more servers under your load balancer. If somebody was editing on one server, it should just magically work under the new server. But right. Knocking on wood, but some pretty cool stuff
yeah. I mean, it's basically stateless session sharing across a cluster, right? So it's like, right now in a dotCMS cluster, we have to use what's called sticky sessions, which basically pins you to a server. And I think one issue that we've seen is when we're doing maintenance or, if server runs out of memory or something, then basically you're pinned to that server, it goes away. You're stuck until the load balancer recognizes that's gone, which can take 15 seconds or whatever. And it can be after you hit submit on a piece of content, right? And so then you have to go back and redo that. So that's the idea with the stateless sessions is that, it doesn't matter. You can be bouncing in between servers. They're coming up, they're coming down. They scale up as needed. They scale down as needed. And your requests are just getting handled by dotCMS.
So similar to the new page browser, we've got a bunch of tools around for content search. Just kind of redoing the interface there, trying to clean it up a bit. Make it a little easier to use, less clicks, more intuitive, all that sort of stuff. The content search is really kind of the core of a lot of things on the site, right? It's how you navigate to find the stuff that you want to work on. So getting that right, that's something that's really important to us. Again, Freddy has been putting a lot of work in on this. Some other features, I don't know, we can't really share all of them yet, but we've got a bunch of other stuff that we're trying to get in for Q3. We'll share them, I guess, as we get a little bit more insight and things start looking a little bit more tightened up. But the last part of this year, we got some template builder improvements, and this is really going to speak to that question that was asked earlier about being able to kind of drag and drop and reorder kind of components on a page. Should be able to clean that experience up a lot. I know that like sometimes when you drag something to a different row, it kind of gets a little bit janky. We're trying to fix all that. So you should be able to rearrange your content however you need to rearrange it. It should be, the interface looks a lot better from the design mocks that we've got going on. Performance wise, it should be just a little snappier too.
Right. And I think Freddy, I don't know whether you want the underlying library. I think, when we implemented the template builder, it was in a JavaScript library, and that was, 2018, right? I think that we're refreshing for 2007, whatever it was. We're refreshing that, and
2018 or 2007, Will.
Somewhere in between there. It's all kind of blurring together here. But no, we're refreshing that, and the the big differentiator there is it's going to be kind of row based. So you're going to be able to build a row and then drag that whole row up rather than just sort of block based.
Yep.
Yeah. So the Freddy's team's working
Yeah,
hard
that's
on
the
that.
main goal. That's the
Yeah,
main
yeah.
goal. We're gonna make it road based. We definitely saw that the users are more focused on control the rows and what's inside the row than the block itself. So we're focusing on that. And in our prototypes that we already built, they're super snappy. You can control a lot of rows and a lot of content without breaking anything.
Nice.
So yeah, it's gonna be great.
Good, good.
We've got a bunch of multilingual improvements coming up as well. Kind of a switch site-wide to using ISO codes for language or locales. And just a bunch of user interface tweaks along with that. So being able to kind of a little bit more easily find the content that you want to edit if you're supporting multiple languages. A bunch of tweaks that make it so that you don't have to have a system-wide default language. You can have a site-by-site default language. So if you have one site that's in English and French and one site that's in French and Portuguese or whatever, you don't have to have English as your default for everything. You can have the default can be set site by site. And yeah, mostly just kind of user interface improvements around that, trying to get it just a little bit, all that normal stuff of less clicks and easier to find. Just trying to make multilingual a lot easier to maintain. Some reports around there too around what's been translated and what hasn't. So if you're, a lot of users will have they may support multiple languages, but they always have a fallback, and they may not necessarily know which pages still need to be translated. If you have a page that hasn't been translated yet, or you have a page that's been where the core version's been updated since you did your translations, being able to generate a report and say, here's the pages that still need work. That's the kind of stuff that we want to build into the multilingual improvements. Similar stuff for multi-site management, just a bunch of UX changes to kind of streamline this and make it a little bit easier to work with. I think a lot of these things were just, if you have a site that has, some of our customers try to have thousands of sites that they manage. And so it's just getting that UX down. That's, some people only have 1 or 2 or 3 sites that they manage, but some people have thousands. So we noticed that the interface just doesn't quite scale as well as we'd like for users that have significant numbers of sites they're trying to manage. So we want to make some improvements around that. Yeah. And then probably the last thing we'll talk about today is this kind of future for future integrations, foundation for future integrations is a scriptable API ingestion of content. I think that may also talk to one of the other questions that got asked today, was basically our desire to build out a way to take content from any system and run with it, have some actions automatically built out. And in dotCMS, when it receives that content, it does something with them, it creates them, it drops them to a page.
Yeah, and we have the idea of the scriptable API, which is super powerful and useful, I think, which where you can write custom APIs using VTLs. And, we see just about everyone using those in different ways. And what this is that, and you can go get JSON and return JSON back in those from other systems, but this is the idea to be able to set up call it a scheduled job or something that's going to go and pull in that JSON and store it already in dotCMS, so it doesn't have to happen on every request. It can happen. You can say refresh this every 30 minutes. If the refresh fails, then serve the stale data because maybe it's better than nothing. It's going to provide a better way to work with data from other systems inside dotCMS and be able to deliver that in real time, or semi-real time, I guess, if it's a scheduled job, but pretty real time. Yeah. There's a question about the WYSIWYG editor and the pasting of external video links for an easy embed. This is exactly what we just did for the block editor, right? Is that the block editor, if you take a look at the block editor, if you go to the demo site and take a look at the block editor, you can drop a YouTube embed URL there, and it's going to drop a YouTube embed. Or you can drag, as Freddy was saying, you can drag and drop the video up there. It's going to automatically drag and drop that video up there. And it's going to give you that video and the video player right there within the block editor. that's the kind of tooling when I say we're not deprecating the WYSIWYG, but we're not really going to build new tooling into it. That's the kind of tooling that I'm talking about. Like, you know, we're going to continue to build out that tooling inside the block editor. I do know in the WYSIWYG though, you can still write custom plugins in the WYSIWYG and customize the WYSIWYG's config to point to those plugins. And I'm sure it's very easy. I'm sure there's already examples of how to do a YouTube embed out there and be able to enable that in the WYSIWYG.
Yeah, the WYSIWYG use TinyMC library. There's already community plugins for that library. So maybe there is something there that we can just plug and play.
There's a question on the CLI improvements, eliminating the need for gulp. I'm not sure what the need for gulp was on the current. I think the current CLI is not using gulp, but will the CLI require an enterprise license? That's a great question. I think the answer is TBD. I wouldn't think so. I can't think of something there that would be enterprisey. That seems to me like core capability, but you know, I don't know. We reserve the right to change our mind on that.
Awesome. Well, if there's any more questions that anyone has, feel free to drop them in the box. Thanks everyone for sticking around for an extra few minutes. Obviously, there's still a lot more that we're working on, and we'll definitely do more updates like this later on this year to brief everyone on Q1 and Q2 of 2024. But otherwise, if there's any other questions, let us know. Everyone will get the recording.
Vic and Todd, you got some mailing lists and stuff, right, that are going to help get that information out?
Yeah, for sure. So everyone will get the recording afterwards, and just, yeah, stay tuned to your email for more sessions like this.
Great.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.